One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, what tools do I need to get into long range shooting? And one of the first things that I'll tell people is a quality chronograph. And you might be asking yourself, as a new shooter, why would I need a chronograph when the manufacturer posts the velocity numbers on the box? Well, there's a lot of things that affect velocity. Temperature affects velocity. Barrel length affects velocity. Whether we're using a rifle that's direct gas impingement or bolt action, that all affects velocity, and there's a ton of other things that affect velocity. And we really need to know our velocity numbers in order to calculate our bullet drop. So what we're going to do today is we're going to run two different rifles, one in .308 and one in 6mm arc. One of them's a bolt action, one's direct gas impingement. We're going to run those numbers across the chronograph. We're going to compare it with the numbers on the box, and then we're going to use the actual data to shoot a target out at 850 yards. Then, once we get done with that, we'll compare what the point of impact shift would have been had we used the numbers on the box. And I think what we'll find is that the numbers are drastically different than what the manufacturer has posted. Before we get into the shooting portion, let's go over the rifle packages that we'll be using. The first one is a 22-inch Triam 6mm arc. We're running an MDT Oryx bipod, an MDT Send-It level, and an Arkin EP5. We will be using the Tacticam on this rifle. And then the next one is a very basic Howa 1500 chambered in .308. Bipod's just the one that came with it, and we're running an Arkin EPL4 for the optic. Alright, we've loaded up a 5-shot string of Hornady factory ammunition, 108s and 6mm arc. The box is saying that we're going to get a velocity of 2750. We're going to actually run this over a chronograph and see what the velocity that we really get is, and then we're going to throw that in a ballistic calculator and compare the differences and demonstrate why we can't use the numbers on the box. All right, so there's our 5-shot string. We've got a minimum velocity of 2555 and a maximum velocity of 2582 with an average of 2566. So we're off by, what is that, 184 feet per second. Let's calculate that and see what the difference in point of impact shift is with those numbers. All right, if we were using the numbers on the box at 2750, our data would call for 6.4 mils, and we would be experiencing 196 inches in bullet drop. But now when we look at the true data with velocity of 2566, we're calling for 7.6 mils elevation with a 233-inch bullet drop. That's a variance of 37 inches, which would result in completely missing the target. All right, data calls for 7.6 mils. I've got that dialed in. Take a couple of cracks, see how we do. And we'll favor just a tad left. Impact. impact, 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 impact. So that's 5 out of 5 with the arc. We'll favor just a tad left. Impact, 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 impact. So that's 5 out of 5 with the arc. Now let's take a look at the Howa 1500. So by the box, we would be looking at a velocity of 2785. Okay, so at 2785, we'd be looking at 7.2 mils elevation and a 222-inch bullet drop. Let's run them over the chronograph and see what the actual numbers look like. All right, this is the Howa 1500. Okay, so the box was saying 2785. Our average is 2669. So we're over 100 feet per second off with the Howa 1500. Okay, so with the real numbers of 2669, we're now looking at 8.1 mils elevation and a bullet drop of 248 inches. So once again, our point of impact has now shifted 26 inches, which would mean that we would completely miss the target. All right, so my data calls for 8.1 mils, which I've dialed in. We'll take a couple of cracks and see what we get. I'm gonna favor 1/4 mil left for wind. Impact. 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 So that's not bad. 5 out of 5 at 850, and in all honesty, I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but that was a terrible extreme spread on the velocity on this factory ammo. So after looking at the data, I think we can fairly safely conclude that we do need a chronograph. Today we were using a Magneto Speed V3. The numbers lined out pretty dang good with that. But there's a lot of great chronographs out there. Lab Radar makes a great chronograph. Garmin makes a great chronograph. And there's several others. Let me know what you guys are using in the comments, and thanks for watching.